Hi.
This program is being recorded.
And we're live. Hello, parents, kids, and my fellow doctors, and welcome to the August 2020 Walk with the Doc Kids Time from the Nevada chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics, which we call the Nevada AAP for short. My name is Dr. Terrence McAllister, and I'm a pediatrician at Desert Valley Pediatrics in Las Vegas. I am also the Walk with the Doc Las Vegas coordinator for the Nevada AAP. Most of the year, we meet at beautiful Springs Preserves, but from June through September, we head up to the amazing Mount Charleston Spring Mountain Visitor Gateway to escape the extreme heat in the Las Vegas Valley. Today is Sunday, September 13th, 2020, and we're all trying to keep our distance to protect ourselves and our community from the coronavirus. So today, we are holding our 6th virtual walk live streamed online. For 4 years, the Nevada AAP has been meeting the second Sunday of every month in Las Vegas to talk about a wide range of pediatric health topics and then to take a walk together. The Nevada AAP also coordinates a walk for the doc in the Reno community as well. And today we are holding a statewide walk with the doc. Today we welcome Dr. Tricia Sellers. Dr. Sellers is the Director of Pediatric Hospitalists at Summerlin Hospital in Las Vegas. Dr. Sellers also recently wrote a blog about bias in medicine for the Nevada AAP, and if you wish, you can read her blog piece on our website. And she'll be talking about bias here today. As Dr. Sellers speaks, I encourage all of you to use the chat box to talk with each other and to ask questions of Dr. Sellers. She will try to answer the questions at the end of her talk. All right, Dr. Sellers, we're ready when you are.
All right, thank you, Dr. McAllister, for the introduction, and thanks for the opportunity to be able to talk with everyone virtually. It's cool that you guys switched it over to virtual until we can all meet in person again. Yes, as Dr. McAllister mentioned, my topic is going to be the topic of bias, and specifically unconscious, or we call implicit bias. This topic is particularly interesting to me as a physician because I've learned that it actually can impact how I treat my patients. I also find it just fascinating how our mind works, and this is part of that. So I wanted to start with, what the heck is this? What is unconscious or implicit bias? This is something that it's relatively new in medicine, but it has been recognized in the psychology world for some time. So it's kind of hard to define, but the easiest way to think of it are thought processes that happen without you actually knowing it. Another way to think of it would be like a mental shortcut. Things that, like how you can recognize your loved one's faces, how you can judge that one object is farther than another. You don't have to think about it. It automatically happens and you don't even know why. So why is this important? So these automatic or mental shortcuts, they can actually lead us to behave in a way that could be unfair to a person or to a group of people. In fact, these mental shortcuts, they might actually make us act in a way that's different than we would say our values are. So for instance, a value could be, oh, it's important to treat people fairly. I want to be treated fairly. I want to treat people fairly. But an implicit bias, it might show up, like for example, in the playground. Maybe there's a new student. Maybe the student talks differently or looks differently than you do. And so, the behavior associated with the bias might be, oh, I'm not going to pick that child for my team because they're different than me. And you wouldn't want to treat the person differently, but these behaviors happen without us knowing it sometimes. When I was doing my research, I liked some of the other examples. It was easier for me to see it. And they had some about animals or insects. So for example, we might think, oh, ladybugs, they're good and they're cute and kind of pretty, but spiders, maybe they're kind of dangerous, even though we may have not had actual experience with either one of those animals. We kind of learn these things. That bias or mental shortcut when you're walking or when you're in your house and you see a ladybug versus a spider, you may actually like squash the spider or treat the spider differently than the ladybug because of these mental shortcuts. This possibility, the good part about it, the behavior, you know, we do have the possibility to change our behavior just with some simple awareness. You know, for the spider example, like maybe we go read about spiders and learn like, wow, most of them are actually doing good work for us, and they eat other insects and they're not harmful to us at all. It can change how you may think about that group of insects. So, you know, how am I or how are we impacted by what we call implicit bias? So, you know, unfortunately, this is a part of the human condition. It's what we call pervasive, meaning, you know, there's no way around it. It affects all of us. And that's because these mental shortcuts, they help us live in our really complex world. If we had to really think hard about every little thing we did, it would be difficult to even leave the house in the morning. So there's so many things that are automatic, and it helps us function when our world is so complex. But these things, they're tricky because we don't actually even know that they're there. It's subconscious, like I said, so we're not aware of it. And like I said, it can lead our actions to be something that is different than what we would want them to be. Some examples of this in the scientific world: Yale University, they did this study. It's called the Yale Children's Study. They took preschool teachers and they got children to be actors, and all different sorts of children. And they followed the gaze, meaning what the preschool teachers were watching. And they found that the majority of the time, the preschool teachers, they were tracking boys who were Black, and they were asked to watch for bad behavior. And they tracked those children more than any other child, even though the children, like, they didn't actually do any, I guess you'd call bad behavior in the study. Another example, one I thought was really interesting, they did a study of college professors. They sent out like 6,000 emails from, you know, or actors who were applying or interested in a PhD program, and they assigned different names. So, you know, Bob Smith, some female names, some names that were more complicated to say than Bob Smith. So what they found were, over time, the people who got the majority of the responses were the names that were typically seen as male and white. And one other one that was really interesting, so orchestras, I guess over time they've learned that it was more common for men to get chosen for select orchestras versus women. So they did a couple levels of a study. First, they put up a screen so that the judges couldn't see who was playing the instrument. And while the numbers improved somewhat, they still found that it was predominantly men that were chosen by the judges. Further study into it realized that the women typically wore high heels, and so it sounded differently, and so perhaps the judges were unconsciously excluding the women. So they had all the participants remove their shoes and have a screen, and the orchestra, it turned out the men and the women got selected equally, 50-50. So those are just some examples of out in our world. And again, like, none of these people, it's not, you're not bad because you have them, you're not, you know, on purpose being mean to others. It's, the point of this is to show us, like, yeah, these things are real, they do exist. It doesn't make us bad, but most of us most likely would agree, oh, we wouldn't want to treat someone that way. So what can we do about this? Well, one, we can recognize that we all have differences, and these are the things that make us unique. We can learn from each other because of our differences. For kids, sometimes you guys are our best example about being brave and learning about someone different than you. There are programs at schools called like Mix It Up Monday or different days, where when you go to school in person, which hopefully will happen again someday, you sit with someone else at the lunch table that you don't normally sit with, or even on the playground, like specifically seek out someone that you're like, oh, I don't ever play with them, and learn one thing about the person. Two, what else can you do? Just, it's really about awareness, being aware of our individual biases. Before, without awareness, we can't actually do anything to make our behavior different. I do have some slides, so I was just going to put up some resources, if you wouldn't mind sharing those. These are some ways, like parents can look for information, professionals, anybody. There's this project Implicit. You can go on there for adults and kind of go through this test, and it helps identify where your biases may be. I've taken it myself a couple times, and it actually really helped me in my patient care, because it's like a little reminder, like, oh, you got to take a time out before I go in that room, because I know maybe I have identified a bias in this area. So that's all I have, what I wanted to talk about today. Dr. McAllister, are there any questions?
Yes, thank you. And we do have a few questions. We have a parent is asking how they should respond to their preschooler when they're out at the grocery store or someplace else in public, and the preschooler points out to somebody that has a different skin color than he has and asks a very loud question about it. What's the best approach?
So yes, of course, most of us adults, like, we immediately feel uncomfortable because these are difficult topics to talk about. But, it's just, one, recognizing, yeah, it is reality. We all have different appearances, different skin color, eye color. We come from different places, and validating the preschooler's observation, like, oh yes, that person does have different skin color. We're all different. If you're at the grocery store, like, look at the produce. Everybody, there's all kind of different produce as well. Make an example about that, and kind of take it in stride, I guess we would say, and not like, oh, shh, don't point that out, because it sends more of a negative message versus like, yes, you are observing that everyone has differences, and that's maybe what makes us special and unique, and we can learn about others.
Okay, great. And there's another question. The parent asking that if their child witnesses an incident at school, for example, a peer using a racial slur, even if their child isn't directly involved, but they're just a witness to this event, what do the parents do to address this with their children?
Sure. So one, always thank your child, like, oh, thank you for telling me that, and making it a safe place to talk about. In regard to safety, you always want to make sure that someone's not in danger, that you would notify the school. Of course, you need to know the age of the child, but thanking them for telling you, and kind of use it as a teaching moment. So, oh, why do you think, how do you think so-and-so felt about that? And, what do you think that's about? Kind of teaching them that isn't right. Number one, it's not funny. It can be difficult when there's a group of people and things are intended as a joke. It can be hard to be the person who doesn't laugh at the joke, or who stands up and says, hey, that's not okay. And of course, again, we want to make sure the child is safe and not putting them in harm's way, but you can use it as an opportunity. So if that comes up again, we can teach them to be brave and use their voice to stand up for someone who's getting made fun of, or, some sort of a racial slur. There are good resources, of course. I know in town there's an Anti-Defamation League. I don't think that's on our thing, but Clark County School District has some resources about bullying. You could always reach out to the school if it became a patterned behavior.
Okay, great. All right, I think that's all of our questions. So thank you, Dr. Sellers, and all.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And thank you everybody else as well for joining us today for our virtual Walk with the Doc. Now it's time to walk, and here's how we're going to do that. We're going to turn off the live stream, but my family and I are going to go for a walk, and we're going to take photos of ourselves, which we'll post on the Nevada AAP's Twitter feed at AAP Nevada. I encourage all of you to tweet your photos to us as well. Please walk for at least 20 minutes, wear sunblock, carry water, and try to stay at least 6 feet away from other people, and wear a mask if you're going to get closer than that to anybody else. Our next walk is Sunday, October 11th, and it will most likely be virtual again. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Have a great walk.
Thank you. Enjoy your walk.
Thank you.
Thank you.